All right, I think we're live. Stock market is one of the greatest show on earth, and today I got 10 biggest headlines that is happening today, so you can keep up to date. And one of the things that we are kind of looking at is we can cover Apple may increase iPhone prices because of the AI chip surge. Intel jumped 9% today because they have signed a deal with Apple to produce their chips. And lastly, Allbirds pivot to AI and hire a Amazon executive to lead the incentives. And these are some of the topics I'm going to cover, but there's 10 of them and 10 headlines total that we're gonna cover today. And let's go with the first topic. Apple may raise um, iPhones. So why is Apple raising headphones? Because the AI-driven shortage has increased memory and storage chips costs. CEO Tim Cook called the situation unsustainable, signaling potential hikes for iPhones, iPads, and Macs. The global generative AI infrastructure boom has forced chip manufacturers to heavily divert their silicon fabrication capacity toward more like lucrative advanced enterprise chips. This shift has triggered massive global supply shortage and severe cost increase for the consumer-grade memory and storage components, forcing Apple to pass these inputs onto the consumers to preserve the premium hardware margin. So what this is basically telling me is like everybody want the newest chip by Nvidia, right? And the TSMC and Intel are producing the chips, and now they're not focusing on these like lower cost chips, and the supply is very constrained because of the high demand. And now with the consumers might be feeling the hit from this like increase on the chips. But speaking of Intel got Intel share jump after Trump says Apple will build chips in the USA. So Intel today is surged about 9% after President Trump said that Apple will design and build chips with the US. The partnership could strengthen Intel's foundry business and advance effort to expand these domestic chip kind of manufacturing. So why is like President Trump want to publicly like confirm a massive manufacturing kind of partnership between like Apple and Intel? He wants the world to know that uh, Taiwan Semiconductor (TSMC) is not the only one that can design and manufacture chips. He wants the United to lead this charge, and I think this is a great news overall because you can't just rely on one little like island in China and the kind of political kind of things that is going on is not that stable. So I think it's a good move that Trump is kind of staying on top of it and make sure that nothing goes wrong. When things go wrong, you don't want to rely on just one island to kind of produce all the chips. Fed hold rates study and singles review of policy uh, framework. So the Federal Reserve Chair Kevin Warsh held rate at 3.5% to 3.75%, launched five task force to review Fed operations and skipped providing a rate forecast. So he just completely stopped giving forecasts now. Markets turn more hawkish as investors interpret his inflation focus and Fed overhaul as a sign of potential 2026 rate increase. So, and he's kind of like highly anticipated um, policy debate for the meeting for the first time. Jerome Powell is no longer like the Fed chair now. Now it's Kevin Warsh. Fed chair Kevin Warsh adopted a like more aggressively hawkish posture to combat sticky inflation fueled by Middle East energy shocks. By completely stripping away forward guidance and refusing to provide a personal rate forecast while a sweeping operational audit takes place. War kind of signal to Wall Street that the central bank is fully prepared to hike rate later in 2026 if price pressure refuse kind of to cool down. So if like we did get like a rate hike later on this year, that means people can't really buy houses that much. People can buy cars because interest rate will determine the monthly payment of a car or the house. So the stock market is just really worried that, hey, if wars decide to actually hijack, the economy will kind of slow down. The GDP overall growth will kind of slow down a bit. So people, the Wall Street just don't like that. The direction is going in. Plus, the some of the red flag is he's not gonna provide any forecast anymore. Allbirds jump after naming ex-AWS executive as the new CEO. So Allbirds now is not called Allbirds right now. It's called Smartbird on the stock market. Appointed former Amazon Web Service executive Nadia Karstein as CEO and completed a rebrand tied to its shift from footwear to AI infrastructure. And you know what the stock did after it announced? Surged 39%. That's huge. After officially divesting and selling off its legacy like Subaru and physical store assets, the corporate sale completed a total structural pivot into the cloud computing by appointing Costing, a seasoned AWS and advanced computing executive, and company expanding its financing facility to 100 million to acquire graphic processors, GPUs. The company ignite massive speculative buying as a dedicated AI infrastructure as a service kind of provider. So basically, Allbirds is kind of jumping on the hype train bandwagon, because right now it's real easy to raise money for you slap a AI on it, and the stock will go massively well, and market is so excited for that. And now like you still gotta be careful. Like right now it's the hype, and it's almost feel like it's kind of like forming a bubble right now. So everybody is into that AI hype right now, but once it pops, you're gonna be like pretty devastating. So just keep you guys safe, and if you understand it, you can invest. If you don't understand it, stay away from it. Alphabet's Waymo 2 recall 3,800 self-driving vehicles. That is not a small number. So, uh, why are they recalling it? Because after a software flaw could allow vehicles to enter close freeway construction zone and continue driving at speed. So that means you're traveling down highway and you can enter into that construction zone. The voluntary recall highlights the edge case software still kind of lagging behind in the autonomous driving architecture. The vehicle perception system failed to accurately process sudden construction barricades and mapping modification on high-speed freeways, requiring a mandatory over-the-air software patch to address the critical safety hazard. I mean, like it just that is definitely that I think one of the scary things because like hey highway you going at least like 60 to 70 miles and the autonomous vehicle just never noticed that hey it's a construction and people are doing some construction stuff. Hopefully they can get that fixed. That is not a joke. If you hit someone, it gonna do some damage. Google AI leader exit to join OpenAI. So OpenAI is always posting these talented people. So and Gemini lead Noam Shazeer is leaving to join OpenAI. Shazeer co-founded Character AI after leaving Google in 2021 and returned in 2024, helping lead development of the Gemini kind of AI model. He played like a pretty pivotal role. So why is he leaving? It's just mainly due to like talent war at the frontier of generative AI remains fiercely competitive. Shazeer sudden kind of joining the Google directly from the sudden like departure from Google Gemini team to chief rival OpenAI kind of underscore the extreme cooperative premium being placed on the handful of legendary researchers capable of architecting next generation large language model. And OpenAI is they are not short in money. They will just have like millions of dollars and they just offer these top executive millions of dollars to join them. And like some people, they do like money. And if they offer higher money, they might jump ship. That is the nature of kind of working for and corporate companies. uniQure share surge on FDA pathway for Huntington's therapy. So, um, uniQure plans to kind of seek FDA accelerated approval for the Huntington's disease gene therapy after the agency endorsed a regulatory pathway based on existing trial data. The share surged 70% on the news. That is pretty insane. Biotech valuations are kind of, heavily tied to regulatory timelines because the FDA kind of formally agreed to accept the uniQure existing biomarker and clinical trial data as a sufficient baseline for the accelerated approval application. The company effectively bypassed years of expensive late-stage trial requirement, dramatically shortened its path to commercialization. So basically, if they have the data to prove that, hey, FDA, this is working. You gotta like let me pass all these hurdles and get this life-saving therapy to the people. And like if you don't understand like bio stuff, like they are like something that is not easy. Like you gotta have some kind of biology degree or you have deep technical knowledge in order to understand it. So I try to stay away from it. But if you understand it, it's a pretty kind of big news overall. Because this is just really accelerate the overall like Carvana explores like hybrid sales strategy with a physical hub. So Carvana is testing Stellantis dealership as a test drive and service hub while keeping all vehicles kind of sell online. The strategy aims to grow market share, boost trade-ins, and challenge traditional dealership model like why are they like partnering with the Stellantis, right? The main thing is to capture the next layer of e-commerce market share. Carvana is attempting like a hybrid operation framework by leveraging physical Stellantis leadership lots. Carvana creates localized fulfillment hub to alleviate consumer friction regarding vehicle handoff and trading assessment without taking on the heavy capital of overhead of buying kind of real estate. So main thing is, if you want to kind of do like a test drive on a vehicle, this is a great way. People just go to like a dealership, and do a test drive because when as you know, Carvana is fully online, and I think this is a way to just if you live closer to a dealership, you can just walk in and test out the car instead of waiting for it to be shipped, and then you don't like it and you gotta ship it back. It's a lot more kind of CarMax beats earning, but margin weight on share. So CarMax beat earning and revenue expectation per share fell after declining profit per vehicle and margin pressure overshadowed results. Um, so CarMax is also selling cars, right? Well, like their top line revenue and overall volume remain kind of healthy. CarMax is experiencing severe margin erosion due to like wholesale vehicle pricing volatility and rising consumer acquisition costs. Investors punish the stock because the revenue beat is secondary to unit level profitability, prompting incoming CEO Keith R to flag a sweeping restructure overall. So the Wall Street people just don't like that. Hey, I know your revenue is growing, but your profit per vehicle that you sold is not at where it needs to be. So the CEO need to kind of step up right now. It's in a pretty bad kind of spot right now. Pentagon advances autonomous drone program. So there's still wars going on, and Pentagon is just trying to get his best, do their best to advance some of the drones. So General Atomics and Anduril won U.S. Force production contract for semi-autonomous drone designed to fly alongside fighter jets. So it's semi-autonomous. It's pretty cool. So modern military doctrine is shifting rapidly toward uncrewed, cost-effective defense systems, right? Because in the future war, right, there's no fighter jets, and like a small drone can go to like a very specific location and target it, and there's no human cost to it too. So this is right now with the advance of AI, it really shifting into this kind of battlefield where drone whichever country produce the best drone will have the superior technology to win that battle because you don't want to have like humans like going to the front line and losing like humans precious lives and I think like drone war is kind of like the future and you got to step up to make sure that you're not lagging behind, because China has some of the best manufacturing right now on drones and stuff. So United States is handing us these contracts to make sure that they are staying ahead. But yeah, that is the end of the video. Let me know if you guys enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up and make sure to hit that subscribe button. My name is Calvin, and I see you guys on the next one.